We are live.
Thank you, Rosie. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors meeting. We're on Zoom. It is October 27th, 2020 at 10 a.m. We do have quorum. I would like to take a roll call, please. Mike Metzger is here. Gary Henry here. Hans Sauer. Hans.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm here.
No problem. Thank you. Mark Odell. Here. Stephen Thorpe.
Here.
Dave Churchill.
Here.
Brad Walters.
Here.
Let the record show that there's 7 members in attendance. We have quorum. I'd now like to entertain a motion for the approval of the September 22nd, 2020 board minutes, which you received in your packets. Thank you, Rosie.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion made by Mark, seconded by Stephen. Any changes, comments, concerns, or revisions? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carried unanimously.
Mike, we have a caller ending in 1230 joining us. May I ask who that is?
Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Borello, the Flano.
Thank you.
Morning, Michael. Oh, we've got 3 lawyers. So everybody watch your P's and Q's. I'd like to now move to new business A, which is the Hanover PV LLC, and that's going to be presented by both Christine and Noah. Christine?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I test.
Okay, good. I had to change devices, so I just wanted to make sure the audio was working. The first resolution that's being presented today is for Hanover PV LLC. We have had this application before the board previously when the board approved the preliminary resolution at the September 22nd board meeting. At this time, the IDA is conducting its typical due diligence process, including the public hearing, which was held on October 7th. The board should have received a transcript and comments related to that public hearing. You have a resolution before you today, which is the SECRA resolution, and in a few minutes, our attorney Millen Tyler will discuss that. Just to recap high level, this is a 5 megawatt solar project planned for 1321 routes 5 and 20 in the town of Hanover, which is in Silver Creek, on 31 acres. Sorry, I'm a little bit congested today. We do have John Rapp here with us today, and we've invited him to provide comments with respect to the project for the board so that they can have additional information as we continue through the due diligence process. And John, if you could unmute.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, you are. So we've invited you to provide some additional information today, and you can go ahead and proceed with that.
Sure, yeah. So I had received comment from the public hearing that was scheduled, as mentioned, a couple weeks ago. We did submit some written comments and went through everything in some detail. Rather than go through, I think, those comments in detail now, which would be a lot of time. I don't think we want to take too much time on them. Just to summarize, I think the types of comments that we received and our responses, and then if there's any specific questions on those, I'd be happy to entertain them. But mostly the comments, our feeling was they were fairly out of scope for the purposes of the IDA. They were in the category mostly of, the solar industry in general. New York State has set a goal for 7% renewable energy by 2030. And if that's not a goal that's shared by everyone, there are other paths, I think, to take issue with that rather than through our application through the IDA. The other types of comments related to resiliency and reliability issues, which is really the province of FERC and New York Independent System Operator. Both bodies are dealing with managing intermittent sources of energy as part of their mandate now. It's also not something that's, I think, for this group to really weigh in on. The other types of issues were, dealing with regular types of environmental impact type things where we work with DEC, we work with SHPO, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps of Engineers, and then local impacts that we're already, working with the town of Hanover with their solar law, especially for an application that we have before that. So, mostly the comments, as I said, went through in detail to demonstrate to you that we take, any concerns of our community members seriously. But for the purposes of our application before the IDA, our feeling is that those are really not relevant for us to get into in any form of detail in this meeting. That said, if anyone has any specific concerns, I'm prepared to address them.
Thank you, John. Yep. Any questions for John? Seeing none, please continue, Christine.
Sure. And as
Thank
John
you, John,
mentioned,
by the way.
yes, thank you, John. And as John mentioned, he prepared a document that it hasn't been forwarded to you already. It will be forwarded to you.
It was forwarded.
Okay, thank you. Should have received that already. Millen, could you please review the SECRA resolution that's before the board today?
I do. And again, sort of in that way of explanation why we're doing what we're doing. That is, typically we would pass a SECRA resolution, quickly by a pilot deviation resolution, and a final approving resolution, usually at the same meeting. It doesn't have to be that way, but in this instance, because there were a number of comments received at the public hearing, some of which were fairly detailed, the staff and I thought that the best way to proceed would be to use the SECRA resolution today. The developer could keep forward on his path with the town, etc., and put off for the next meeting both the pilot deviation and the final approving resolution, if that's what the board chooses to do. And the purpose of that would be to allow the board a little more time to look at the material submitted, including the October 23rd letter that Christine and John mentioned, as well as any other material or any other due diligence that the board would like to. One of the public comments, referenced a particular movie on Netflix. So we thought that rather than rush into this, we'd give the board one more opportunity to either ask any more questions or have the staff do any more due diligence before giving the final approval. And in particular, we came to that conclusion because this is one of a number of other solar projects that are going to come before the board. So rather than have any perception from the public or the board that we were rushing this through, the thought was for today, give the board a little more time, about a month, and then take up the next two resolutions. So, and in this case, we did go through the SECRA process because this is a type 1 action under SECRA, and it's a type 1 action that involves more than 2.5 acres in an ag district. Because it's a type 1 action, the IDA went through what they call a coordinated review, which means that all of the affected agencies sort of act as one. Just that you need a lead agency. The town indicated that they did not want to be lead agency, so the IDA staff stepped up, sent a letter to each of the other municipalities and agencies on, I think that was September 25th, after the last board meeting, and declared that unless anyone objected, the IDA would be a lead agency. Therefore, and no one objected, there were no responses of any sort. Therefore, on October 25th, the IDA became the lead agency, and now any resolution that the IDA passes is really binding on the other agencies. Again, it's a type 1 action, which involves a sort of additional level of investigation which we've gone through. Rich asked me to go through the process very quickly as to what it is that we actually do to get from application to here. So when the application comes in, they fill out either a short form or this is a long form, E8, and that includes parts 1, which is 2 pages, part 2, which is another 10-page questionnaire. Have you done this? Does it involve that, etc. So that gets submitted to the staff. The IDA staff looks at it, and if they think that it's complete, they forward it on to us. And at Phillips Lido, we have a team, half dozen attorneys who work on these matters for the IDA. And over the last month or so, we've asked a number of questions and gotten answers from the developer and gotten additional documentation. And in fact, in the secret resolution, you can see the sort of list of the biggest items that we've got in the fourth and fifth whereas clause. We list 16 different documents that have come in and been reviewed by us for a recommendation to the board. So based on those documents and conversations and follow-up documents and questions we've asked the developer, the secret resolution goes through each of the conclusions and whether or not those conclusions come to the conclusion that this does not have a significant adverse effect on the environment. And again, you can go through them, but it's impact on land, impact on geological features, groundwater, flooding, etc. So all of the specific areas that SECR addresses, the resolution addresses one by one, which when I say why it's 8 pages, but we've gone through each of those and working with the developer and staff have come to the conclusion, and we'll conclude, that we believe that it's reason for the board to conclude that this does not have a significant adverse effect on the environment. So that's the resolution in front of us. And again, we will put off both the deviation and the approval resolution until November, unless you decide otherwise. With that, I'm done.
Thank you, Millen. Thank you, Millen. Any questions for Millen?
The question I have, and I listened to everything Millen just said, that means that everything in the secret was positive or negative, I should say. There wasn't any question about any of the factors.
Correct. And some of it involved due diligence because it wasn't apparent at first. For example, wetlands. You want to make sure that they're not building on the wetlands. So we had to ask for a wetlands delineation map to make sure that they weren't disturbing a certain amount of wetlands. But the answer to your question is yes, we didn't see any of these as significant adverse effect on the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. You had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just comment really to clarify a few things. One, I'm not opposed to renewable energy. I've been in the industry for 15 years plus. A big proponent of it, especially when it has utility and benefit for all. Although everyone realize I seat here, I'm the elected official in this room representing many taxpayers throughout Chautauqua County. So a lot of my judgment goes into sentiments brought forth by the constituents that we serve on the legislature. While I agree, reading through this, I do not see any significant adverse effects on the environment. So this make a lot of sense. My concern, number one, is the displacement of agricultural land resources. For one, projects like this, my constituents would love to see on brownfields, capped landfills, places like that where they can work. Displacing farmland, when my committee also works with farm protection, again, is a concern. So from the basis of my constituents, I'll be voting no, but just to let you know, I do not see significant adverse effects in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jake. Any other questions for Millen?
I'm sorry. I have a comment real quick. This is Mark. We did receive a couple of letters last night So we will package those all and send those all to the board in the coming days so that they have that information as well before the next meeting, well in advance. And again, the deviation hearing was intended to be before this meeting because we thought we were going to originally vote on the approving resolution. But because we're not, that deviation hearing will be held prior to the November meeting, which is on the 17th. So I just wanted to make sure that the board knew that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to make one comment to that Mark's comment, which is that in the seeker resolution, one of the comments is impact on land. And there's a notation that while we are converting from farmland to this solar farm, no lasting impact is envisioned because at the end of the project, the solar farm would be dismantled and the project could be put back to farmland use. So while I agree with Mark that it is changing the nature of the land for now, at the end of the project, we don't know what's going to happen. It could return back to farmland.
And then just one comment on that, if I may, is we have a decommissioning obligation before the town, so it will be restored to farmland.
And Mel, on this, it's Hans. Is this a 30-acre project? Is that right, or John? Is that about the area that we're talking about?
Yeah, roughly.
31.14, but who's counting? And again, that's the entire site. Obviously, it doesn't cover all 31 acres, but that's the whole project site.
Good questions. Any more for Dylan or John or Christine?
One more comment, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Quite other projects like this under 5 megawatts, I've been happy to support and happy to cheerlead and champion, especially in projects where, like the Portland project from a year ago, where it's proved to be a silent, resilient neighbor. It's operating. I do see it out there. But I think for the benefit of all of us, especially on the board, as we wrestle with these decisions, post-mortem on their operate, we get under our belt with these projects. Are they performing to the intended benefit from this perceived to take place? So just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
That's an excellent point, and Mark, let's put that on our agenda that we need to revisit these projects through their milestones and as their operation. Good point, Mark. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? I'll ask Gary if you do business A2.
Yes, I move resolution 10-27-20-01, resolution of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act concerning determination of significance for a certain project for Hanover PV LLC and its affiliates.
Thank you. A motion made by Gary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Sauer?
Aye.
Mark Odell?
No.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Brad Walters?
Aye.
Let the record show that there's 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 nay. Motion carried. Now I'd like to move to new business B1, which is basically the approval of the EDA CARES Act loan fund disbursements, round 1. Mark, are you going to lead this or is Rich?
I'll start out.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, did you have something?
Christine,
yeah.
did you?
I did. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to thank John for participating, and he's welcome to continue on, or he's also welcome to go ahead and sign off if he's all finished.
He's already signed off.
Thank you.
Yeah, he already signed up. But,
Okay, he knows our routine, right?
well, thank you, Christine, for all your hard work and effort on this project.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just going to give a couple of talking points real quick about, the work that we've done and how we got to where we are today, if you don't mind. So, the business development managers have been working feverishly and, reviewing loans. Have gotten more than 30 applications in. They actually processed 28 of them, which you will be voting on today. We sat down, Rich and I sat down with each of the business development managers and went through each of the loans very closely. Basically at the end of the day, we have more requests than money. The whole idea was to spread the wealth, do this in 3 rounds. And so what we've decided to do is basically reduce the working capital request by 50% in every case, because almost everyone asked for the full amount of $250,000, and would have almost cleaned us out. So we've done that. We then created the spreadsheet. We sent out about a week before we met with the loan committee. We sent out the spreadsheet, the summaries. We put all the applications on the Dropbox. We had about an hour and a half, 2-hour meeting with the loan committee. We went through each loan and talked about it. They asked questions. And so really what you see in front of you today is what they're recommending. What else? Again, 3 rounds. Obviously today, January will be round 2, and then April will be round 3. And we want to see where we're at after the 3rd round. A couple of things could happen. We could have money left, and then we could potentially go back to some of the applicants, even the applicants that we're considering today, and maybe we're able to offer them more money. I doubt that's going to happen. I think that we'll have it fully committed by then. The other thing that we currently have is we sort of have a hold or a budget allocation for these projects that have state funding approved for them. Hopefully this money is $2.8 million. It's for like the Furniture Mart building and the Belch building in Westfield, the White Inn in Fredonia, and then the Empire State Brands. So they all got state grants, and we're hoping that this money can help move them off of ground zero and get a commitment there. Now, we've been talking about this, and we're thinking that after that 3rd round, if we don't have that money committed, we'll then pull that money back in and make it available to all the businesses. So we'll look at that as we move along here. At the end of the spreadsheet, you'll notice we kind of have the budgets for each of the sectors. And we kind of came out of the gate thinking that, and I won't go through all this, but we had $3.5 million allocated for manufacturing and warehousing. And we're going to move some of that. We're going to move $1 million of that over to retail, commercial agriculture, $500,000 of it there, $500,000 to small business, or $250,000 to small businesses, and $250,000 to tourism hospitality. That doesn't really mean a whole lot, other than we're trying to spread the wealth, and we're trying to make sure that we hit all the sectors. So we've kind of set up these budgets. So with that, I don't know if anybody has any questions for me right now.
Mark, it's Hans. I just had a quick question, and I could be all wet. I thought we were trying to get this out in 2 tranches. Was there a decision that I didn't know about that pushed it to 3, and is it those state-funded projects that sort of drove that, if that's what happened, just to allow for a little more time with flexibility? I thought it was 2.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we were talking about 2, and I think that we won't have any problem with 2, but we kind of have that third round just in case out there.
Perfect.
If we're not fully committed, with the money after 2 rounds, then we have a third round kind of out there if we need it.
Okay.
That's all.
We're not reserving any of the funds to make sure there's money in the third round, or is that to be determined?
No, we're not reserving it, but we are, again, like we did with this first round, we're making sure that we're being responsible about allocating this funding, because if we gave everyone everything they asked for, we wouldn't have anything for the next round.
Right.
So,
right. Good. Okay. Thanks. And just a quick comment that, I'm a big fan of the way you organized all of this. It came at us fast and hard, and I think there was a little bit of confusion in the beginning, but kudos to you and the team for putting together what I think is just a really understandable, methodical process for how we want to get this money into the community as quickly as possible. And I think that's the key. So I'm worried about reserving money until later when there's people that are in need now.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Han.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. We have a great team, and it's been really, it's been a joy to get this, to figure this out, right? Get the money out, but get it out in a responsible way. So thank you for saying that. So in the interest of everyone's time, we're not going to go through in detail all those months. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Rich is going to talk about. It's just going to kind of spend 30 seconds to a minute on each of the loans that's on the spreadsheet. It's just going to kind of give a brief overview of what it is, what they're going to do, and go down through each one. Then at the end, what we'll do is Mike will ask for if there's any abstentions, if anyone has a conflict of interest, and then we'll vote the resolution. We'll vote on the whole package, with the exception of any changes that maybe this board makes to those loans as we talked about. Does that sound fair? Okay. All right, Rich.
I would just like to add before I start, Mark, that, typically I've been doing this for 15 years. When we typically make loans to people, it's always a good story. They've got a good story to tell. Sometimes people are in need and need working capital to survive. Certainly not the case with these. I mean, you could hear desperation in people's voices, and it's certainly hard to say no. But again, Mark, I think the loan committee and the staff, that you did an excellent job going through and cutting some things out of here that could wait. So I mean, it's always a decision and it's objective, but again, I think everybody did a good job. So with that, we'll start. So Lusco Aircraft Corporation moved their business from California up to a hangar in the airport, and then COVID hits, impacted them greatly. Their total package is $322,000. It calls for some improvements to the hangar and some working capital. Merritt Estate Winery, he needs money to buy grape juice. Crunch Roll Factory, making crunch rolls, got devastated initially by this, making a little bit of a comeback now. He had asked for some equipment too that we weren't able to fund, but we are giving him working capital. Newbrook Excelco had turned down because they have no working capital to buy this deal, so this will help them, enable them to get up and get going on their business. As terms have spread out because of COVID, they need this money. Hardtone, greatly affected by COVID. They have some machinery and equipment and some working capital here to help them move forward out of this. We cut a huge chunk out of there that was for a roof that we just felt wasn't appropriate this time. International Ordnance, same thing. They had some equipment and we cut their working capital. Tammy's a current loan customer of ours. Kinberg Manufacturing asked for some manufacturing equipment to help him get through this. Heritage Ministries, they have some equipment and things they need to buy to comply with the health department's standards of COVID, plus some working capital. They've been hit hard. Gucci is getting into a new line of some things, and they've been devastated, so they're giving them working capital. Pool Ventures, see, we've reduced their working capital because they had an existing line of credit with the bank that was not tapped into. And we told them, we don't want you to deplete that line of credit, but use that, and then we'll give you $25,000. Our coal sale had been approved by the loan committee before, came back again, and we've cut this down now to $125,000 working capital for 3 of his entities. SKB Auto is to help purchase a Ford dealership by a local entity that was not doing well and was in dire straits of going under. They're trying to create some jobs there. And when this is purchased, SKB Auto will then be split into 3. Another investor is going to come in, another local investor. So it's good to see these businesses staying local.
It's also saving 28 jobs. I wanted to throw that in there. That's very important.
Majota's wasn't greatly affected at the beginning of this. As you can imagine, they're getting affected now. They had some expansion plans that they had to put on hold, and they needed some working capital. Malicki Law Firm, same thing. Their COVID just devastated their business, and they need some working capital with their expenses. Advanced Production Group, Dan cut his working capital. He has some equipment and a new line that will reform his business into the world of COVID, and he's very excited about that, and that should help him tremendously. Pete Shira Jr., the skate shop, again, cut his working capital a little, but he's got some improvements there to increase his manufacturing and help his building out. Over corner of his bus and Gary cut their working capital. They had some rolling stock in there that we weren't being able to fund. They have a contract with the county, thinking we could lease those vehicles and do it that way. Webb's Candies and the hotel, which is separate from Webb's and the bowling alley, the restaurant, the hotel and the candy part. Again, working capital, they had to remodel some rooms to take advantage, bring things up. In the world of COVID, they need to do that, and they're hoping for a great snowmobile season with these rooms. Faulkner Hotel, working capital and some equipment. La Quinta Holiday Inn Express in the Hampton Inn. The loan committee decided that one entity could only get $250,000. They asked for $750,000, even though it was for 3 different hotels. So we've reduced that. As you know, these Holiday Inns and Hampton Inns particularly have been hammered with COVID, no business travel. And let current loan customer, the only way they're going to survive is to increase their seating capacity at 50% inside. They just have to close their doors. So there's some working capital there and some additions to put on this building to take advantage of the seating. Ivory Acres, again, cash was all the wedding. That's a wedding venue that got hammered. Jawbox right next door to us there, working capital and some equipment so that we can reopen, get moving. He's excited about that. Going to take a little different direction into the health aspect of food and things. Baker's got a good plan there. Pace's Pizza, a local business here. He owns the business. He didn't own the building. He needs to expand on the back of the building. So this working capital will help him. And then he'll also be able to extend his business. I've seen the drawings. It looks really nice. Again, local ownership, great project. And finally, this Harbor and Bowling Alley, there was some money in there to do some drive-through renovations for the gift shop. We didn't feel that was quite appropriate, but certainly the working capital to help Ben move along in that. So in total, as Mark said, we've got $5.7 million here, and that's what we're presenting to the loan committee. So I'll be quiet now. If there's any questions, if I can't answer them, the business development managers can.
Very well done, Rich, and thank you for the whole CCIDA team and vetting all these and going through them and processing them in fashion that we can address them. Questions for Rich, please.
No questions, Mr. Chairman, but just a quick comment. Guys, as I publicly lauded in committee and in full legislature, you guys are really, really to be commended for this. I mean, not just putting this together at lightning speed, like Han said, and again, kudos to the full committee as well, but for the very fact that we're invited to apply for this EDA money. That says a lot right there. It's a testament of the organization. So, nice job, everyone. This is an easy one for me to support. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Excellent.
Not seeing any questions. Now what I'd like to do is address if there's going to be any abstentions relative, since we do have a sizable amount of loans and a variety, which is tremendous. I want to thank you for hitting all sectors of our markets and also all of the sectors which we had so identified to support. Any abstentions?
I'd like to abstain from each year.
Thank you. Any other extensions? Abstentions. Abstentions. Yes. Okay. Hearing none. Mark, if you could please bring forward this resolution.
Very pleased to, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Resolution 10-27-20-02, the members of County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to grant Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration Award to the Revolving Loan Fund.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I would second that.
Thank you, Jay. Motion made by Mark, seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? Now this will be a roll call vote with the one abstention of Gary's. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Sauer?
Aye.
Mark Odell?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Dick Churchill?
Aye.
Brad Walters?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously, 7 votes in the affirmative. Round of applause for our IDA team. Thank you very much. And for the loan committee. Great. Now this is who's going to, is Millen going to address the new business seed holiday party?
I'll jump on that, Mike, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
So
I voted aye.
you can jump in, Millen. Obviously we've been talking in the office about, the planning for the holiday party, and we're all a bit nervous about the concept of all getting together and, having a super spreader event, right? So we felt, we'll bring it up to the board and talk to you about it, but we're feeling that we shouldn't have one this year, as hard as that is to say. And that, if we decide not to, as a board, then we were thinking that we would make a donation to some great cause. And one of the causes that came up was, I don't know if you're all aware, but it's the Robert H. Jackson's 75th anniversary. And they're putting together a compilation of how the local newspapers covered the event, and printing out 15,000 glossy, beautiful copies of kind of a book that kind of tells the story of our great local hero. And we talked to, obviously Greg brought this to our attention, and I think that would be a great thing to support. I don't know if you want to say more about it, Greg. But first of all, do we all agree that we should not have a Christmas party this year?
I do.
Okay.
Nope, I'm not seeing any. I think for everyone's health, safety, and well-being, that's appropriate, and also given the state of the community, we've had a very recent rise in cases, so it's appropriate for health and safety. I thought you were talking about Greg's 75th birthday.
That's next year.
Yeah. Greg, that sounds like tremendous opportunity. Please describe it to me.
Well, as humble as I am, let's talk about it. In one sense, this is the 75th anniversary of the. Okay. Millen's still upset over this holiday vote. Anyways, this is the 75th anniversary of the Nuremberg trial, and the 75th. The architect of all that is the Robert Jackson, and the Jackson Center is going to do much locally, regionally, nationally, internationally to commemorate that because he was the architect, and we've got a lot going on. But one of the projects, which was started about 10 years ago, actually, was to research and ascertain how did the local newspaper, the Post-Journal, treat its native son during the largest international criminal court case in history. And so we pulled together a lot of information from the Post-Journal and are intending to distribute by November 21st, which is the actual date, roughly 15,000 copies, which will be distributed through a variety of means. That's the tourism destination areas, the schools, the libraries, the museums, normal spots throughout Chautauqua County. So it's a terrific project, and one which, of course, I'm incredibly biased. I think it's a great idea. But nevertheless, mention that to Mark and Rich, and it found favor.
Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
I would support that, absolutely.
This is Miller. May I make one comment? It's not going to be styled as a grant per se, because there is a controller's opinion that says we're not allowed to grant IDA funds. So we'll accomplish the same thing, and since this is a form of economic development, we will style it as such when it comes down to it. So I guess I just want to make that clarification that when it comes down to it, it's not going to be a grant, but the money will still go to the same place for the same purpose.
Advertising.
That's all good.
So how much money were we talking about?
Maybe like $500 or something.
So it's not a gigantic amount.
It can be, Dave, if you would like.
You'd say 500 or 2,500?
2,500.
Let's talk about the party again. I think we should talk about the party for 2,500.
So we will be recognized in this brochure. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. And I would appreciate copies for the college if we could. I'm looking at everyone, and everyone seems to be in agreement. Okay, we don't need a resolution for this. I think we can just, as an agreement, our executive director has the rights to purchase advertising. So, a great idea. Also, thank you all for identifying to the holiday party, as we'll definitely be getting together in the future. So, thank you. I'd like to move to the executive director's report. Mark, please.
Yeah, I don't have a lot today because, again, it's a long meeting. So I did just want to report back to the board that, as you recall, when COVID hit us, we did a number of things. But one of the things that we did is we developed a program called the PPE Business Assistance Grant Program, and we went and solicited funding from the Gebby Foundation, the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation, and the Rotary Club of Jamestown, and we posed a challenge grant to them, and the challenge was to try to get to $25,000 between the IDA and the foundations, and we were able to raise $25,000. We developed a program, we put it out there. at the end of the day, and Linda Burns, by the way, managed this program, did a great job along with staff, other staff. But we helped out at the closeout, which was about a month ago. We helped out 28 businesses, and we pushed out again $25,000. We teamed up with Jamestown Community College. They actually went into a lot of the companies and did an assessment of what they needed, and not just in terms of, PPE, but also how they could reconfigure their spaces and how they could rework their schedules so that people weren't coming in contact with each other, all that kind of stuff. So it really worked out great. 28 businesses were helped. And so I just wanted to report back to the board and thank the staff for all the hard work on that as well. That's it. Unless anybody has any questions.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark. Treasurer's report, Rich, please.
Hey, Rosie, it's going to put up some financials for us here.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay.
So we have in front of us the balance sheet through September. Just want to call its attention to the cash, the IDA, a little low on cash right now. But if you look down below the cash, you see that receivables of 3.2. We have approximately 700,000 of that coming in the next 2 months. So we're going to alleviate our cash shortage. The EDA CARES Act, we have what we're expecting a wire any day. Kayla submitted to get reimbursed for that. And that money is to pay for salaries of the staff that we've allocated to that fund. Pardon me?
We got it last week.
We got that money. So the EDA, we've got the pipeline open for that. When we make these loans, and these loans, as they've been approved, when we get a closing date between the attorneys with Greg and the other attorney on the other side, we have to draw down the funds from the EDA for these loans. We have 30 days to disperse it or we have to send it back. So we're going to make sure we have a closing date and we're going to get this money out as soon as possible. That's all I wanted to point out on the balance sheet. Rosie, if you could go to the next page, please. Profit and loss, continuing to have a good year here, particularly in the IDA. We're expecting a $200,000 grant for funds we've already expended at Mason Park from Empire State Development. Give Rosie kudos, or Caleb some kudos on that. You can't imagine what it's like trying to get $200,000 out of the state of New York. The paperwork is just ungodly. It has to go to 10 different committees, and they really make it difficult. But we are going to get that. If we look at the All-Tech Fund, our bad debt is currently at $300,000. We'll be looking at that at the end of the year. I think we're going to have to adjust that up, just the reality where we're at. Rosie, I just want to point out here, there's a new column on here. It's called the PEG, Partnership for Economic Growth. It's on my balance sheet and on my revenue, but the budget is separate. So if you go to the next page, Rosie. So here's our budget, less the PEG. Next year, I think we'll incorporate it all into one, but as the PEG was getting started, we felt it was important that we kept it separate. And Kayla is going to go over the PEG budget here when I'm done with this. So again, we're in pretty good shape here. Our application and administrative fees, we have some big things that are going to close here at the end of the year, hopefully, and we'll close that gap. We'll make a gap in December and certainly be January, February. But either way, we will get all that cash I talked about because those are already fees that have been in receivables. So everything else is pretty much in line. Our interest income is a little low. Excuse me. So that's all I have on that. Kayla, would you like to talk about your Partnership for Economic Growth budget?
All right, those translate into actual numbers. We have hashtags. I'm going to go through this real quick so that I don't get sick on camera.
Okay, Helen, I'm sorry.
PEG, the top numbers are about 70 grand in cash equivalents, which is up from last month. And then the current year equity is 72,000. So total we're at 69,280. Still no assets and liabilities in Chadwick Bay. The others are pretty comparable to last quarter. Rosie, if you want to put onto the, there's a little more activity in Chadwick Bay. We moved over some income into Chadwick Bay to cover the expenses for like Nate's salary and things like that. Let's see. There's some new expenses, some activity going on for the Chattacoin River. That's pretty much it.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, just real quick, just a little clarification, and we're going to talk about it at the critic board meeting. But again, the Partnership for Economic Growth is that public-private partnership that we created. We've been working on it for 2 years. Our consultant, Camoin, recommended that it be created under the umbrella of critic. And that's, the mission is correct, and it made sense to have it here. And so we've created it. We got funding through the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation. We got funding from Gebby, and hired Monica, of course, in the North County, and we're going to hire someone in the South County. And we got 5 different working groups. We got about 110 active participants, economic development stakeholders that are involved in the meetings, and we're defining about a dozen projects, projects that have community-wide impact for this year that we're chasing after. So that's kind of in a nutshell what that is.
And these will all be in the audit, Mike. They'll all be under critic. But I thought it was important as we got started that, just as Mark did, explain these to everybody so we're all familiar with it.
Thank you both for the clarification and Kayla for the report. And I hope you're feeling better. But congratulations. So that's exciting.
They don't settle well.
Should I go on to the last page?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kayla.
Oh, no, you're fine. So the fourth quarter projections are fairly similar to the third quarter, the way those were. But we've got a contract, or we have income coming in the fourth quarter for Chadwick Bay. So you'll see that there, and also for the Chattacoin River business plan, and some contracts for professional fees and whatnot coming out. So you'll see that. And then the first quarter projections, we added in a few expenses for the new hire coming in most likely in January. And that's pretty much it. So just a little side note, some of the monies we've gotten for PG are specific for the project, and then others are blanket. PEG has the opportunity to spend this money on however they deem acceptable. So there's some monies that we can move from PEG as a whole into the individual projects, but others like the DRI and Chattacoin River, they have specific contracts for the income. Just a little FYI.
Yeah, and with the Chattacoin River Strategic Business Plan, that's money in and money out. So that was, GAPP and county and private sector all contributing to this strategic business plan that CNS and their sub-consultant Harry Sickerman are working on. So, that's why that shows up there, money in, money out, really.
Thank you. On a percentage basis, how much of the funds are restricted and how much are unrestricted, approximately?
No, actually, Mike, I'd have to look at that because I didn't make note.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Mark, you might be able to.
I don't think any of it's restricted.
Yeah, I would consider that to be designated, Mike, as well. And if that's what it's for, you just keep it in that column.
Okay, if it's not restricted, it goes right into PG, and then you can put it into the other categories. But if it's restricted, it'll show specifically in that column for whichever project.
Makes sense. Thank you very much. Any questions for Kayla or for Rich?
I have another sheet I need to share, Mike.
Okay.
Each year, is my screen up?
Yes.
Yep.
Each year, we are required by the authority, public authority, public authority for portability information, is to prepare a budget and a 4-year plan. We need to send this in. You know, Mark and I and Kayla and Nate are going to sit down here. We're going to have some major changes to this, and we won't know until November, December. We won't recognize that EDA CARES fund money until we actually write the check to the participants. So we're going to figure that out, and we'll redo the budget probably in the first quarter of the year when we have a better idea, Mike. I do need to submit this by the end of the month to the public authorities. So on this sheet, you'll see I put in, first thing I put in was last year's actual information from the audit. I put in the current year estimated. I put in the next year what we would like to adopt today and the proposed for the next 3 years. So again, knowing we're going to change the budget as we do every year, this is just my first preliminary cut at it, not knowing what year we'll recognize those EDA funds. And I have that. That's the last thing we would need to approve. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that. It's pretty straightforward.
Any questions for Rich? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to approve the treasurer's report and the Paris report.
So moved.
Thank you, Gary. Gary? Yep.
You can me. I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion by Gary, seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Let the record show motion carried unanimously. I'd now like to accept a motion to move into executive session to discuss the financial position of various companies. Do I have a motion? By Brad?
Yep.
Seconded by Stephen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are we going to, for Rose be coming in and out, are we